Hey guys, this is just going to be a video of me talking about 3 blind, an event I've taken up a bit recently, and some of my thoughts on improvement, as well as some example solves and how I solve, how I memorize, stuff like that. So for starters, about 4 months ago, around late November 2015, I was averaging like 2 to 3 minutes at blind, and 4 months later I averaged like 45 or so seconds, so I think I have a thing or two to say about improvement. So yeah, I'm not sure how structured this video is going to be, so yeah, let's get started. Alright, first thing I want to talk about is my letter scheme, because this isn't something I've seen, like, my letter scheme and the way it works isn't something I've seen very well documented. The idea I initially got from Corey Sikowski, and what it was is, with 3 blind, your buffer pieces, for me, UVL and DF, you don't need to letter them because you're never going to shoot to them, and as a result, you only need, what is it, 21 letters for like corner stickers and then 22 for edges. So for corners, I eliminated the letters Q, X, Z, V, and J because those are the 5 least frequent letters in the English language. And I did something similar for edges, except I left V in, but I'm also going to talk about another change I made later. So yeah, for starters, my corners go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, S, T, U, W, Y. So that's my corners, and then edges go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, S, T, J. I'll explain in a sec why this is J and not U. So R, S, T, J, V, W, Y. So that's my scheme. I used to have U there, but the way I solve blind, I do edges first and I do them with audio. And having U there, I used to have A, E, I, O, U, and Y all on different pieces, which led to some kind of ugly audio strings. So I just replaced that with J, because it's a pretty easy sound and it's distinct from all the others. But then for corners, I just left them the way they were because I liked it. I will say though, that although this was good in the short term because it made creating letter pairs a lot easier, I actually ended up learning a letter pair list, so I have 2 words for every possible corner letter pair, and also for edges because of multi-blind. So once you know a letter pair list, what your letter scheme is really doesn't matter. So whether you want to try something like this where you omit bad letters, or you just want to use spefs, in the long run it'll make little difference, but in the short term you might like it, especially if you don't know how far you're going to go with blind. So that's about all I have to say for my letter scheme. Next thing I want to talk about is how I learnt 3 style, as well as my thoughts on buffers. So for starters, the way I did it initially was I took Noah Arthur's advice of learning all of the comms for this RDF piece. So I started with this one, which is my I, because that's the Whiteburn one. So I learned every single one, starting and ending with that. So I learnt all my comms for I forwards and backwards. I then did the same with F, and then the same with Y. And then what Noah suggests to do is to set up your comms to this piece, using whatever setup moves necessary, doing one of like 100 or so comms that you know, and then undoing. I personally didn't like the idea of this because I just wanted to have good speed optimal cycles from the get-go without having to do cleanup later. With that said, learning 3 style is not very fun. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest, learning 3 cycles and drilling them in a short amount of time like I did is not enjoyable, like at all. But if you're really determined to learn it, like I was, then I would definitely go for it, even if it can be a bit of a drag. It's definitely worth it, and I'm very happy with all the cycles that I have now. So basically, just once I learnt these 3, I just kept going. So I learnt like this one, then this one, blah blah blah. And one thing to note is when you go piece by piece, if you leave one piece at the end, if you learn all your comms forwards and backwards, once you get to the last piece, which in my case was this one, you're going to know 3 style corners because every one involving this piece will just be an inverse of something you already know. So that's pretty much my advice for that. My other piece of advice for learning comms for corners is if you want to learn good, if you want to start by learning like better cases, pick stickers rather that are interchangeable with the buffer. So there's 9 for edges and 9 for corners that are interchangeable with the buffer, like these 3, this one, these 2, this one, and I think that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. And then like similar thing with edges, like with the DF buffer you got all these ones, all these outer ones, and then the M slice interchanges. So yeah, my advice for learning 3 cycles if you want to do it quickly is to go sticker by sticker and write up a list and refer to it when you want to drill. Another way you can learn 3 cycles is, it's kind of like you have like a certain case, like you have U layer piece interchangeable with buffer, and then like with U moves, so like top color, and then a bottom layer piece, not the bottom color, so like say A to K, because all of these types of cases with the interchange there and side pieces are like 8 or 9 movers depending on how you want to do it. I usually opt to not rotate for something like A to K, and actually most comms, because I think rotations for corners aren't good. For edges it can be okay, because sometimes doing like weird U slice setups just isn't that good. So yeah, that's more or less my advice for learning comms. Just try going sticker by sticker. If that doesn't work, just try learning case type by case type. And yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is buffers. So there's a bit of discussion about which buffers generate the best 3 cycles. A lot of people think the upfront edge, which is the buffer you'll learn for turbo, generates better 3 cycles than something like DF. And even though I use DF, I actually agree with this. Only reason I didn't try switching to turbo is because 1, I'm really bad at turbo, like unbelievably bad. Like I'll just mess up setup moves, DNF constantly. And the other thing is I didn't realize how far in I was going to get to 3 blind. But oh well, that's my choice, I'm stuck with it. And I mean, it's not too bad, but if you really want to like optimize everything as much as you can, I would recommend a UF buffer. And then for corners, I think UBL is pretty good. I'm not sure if maybe like UBR or UFR is better, but yeah, I mean, honestly, Old Pockman corner buffer is pretty good. So that's about all I have to say for how I learnt 3 style and buffers. So might just get into some example solves now. Alright, this is the first scramble. Hopefully the scramble's on the screen if I decided to properly edit this video. So, as I mentioned before, I do edges with audio, so I memo corners with an image and then do edges. So, start off, got T, and then that's my buffer, A. This is almost always my default because interchangeable with the buffer, so most of the comms are really good. In this case it's an A9, which isn't the best, but it's still pretty good. So T, A, U, U goes to L, which goes to I, and then back to A. And then I have these 2 corners left, which I just kind of know visually. So B, W, and then H. My memo for that would be TA is tattoo, UL is either ultimate or Ulrich. I'd probably go, I think ultimate would be the first one I think of. So tattoo, ultimate, then Ian for IA. And then BW is Bowser or bowling. Probably go Bowser again because it's the first one I think of. And you'll notice this a lot because with 3 blind I find you don't really have to pick the best story, you just have to go with what comes to your mind first and make it stick. So tattoo, ultimate Ian, Bowser, and then H. I'll use Hungry Jacks for that. Or Hazy. I think I'd probably use Hazy. I have like a few words I use for parody depending on like if I'm doing multi or 3 blind. It'd probably end up being Hazy because I tend to attach a Z at the end of a single letter at the end. So once again, corner memo is tattooed ultimate Ian, Bowser is Hazy. So, and then I go to edges, and since I have parity, I know that I need to intuitively swap these 2 edges in my memo. So start off, DI, and then this normally goes to B, but I'm swapping them, so DI, AS, TRYO, that ends the cycle. There's 2 solved edges and a flipped one here, so I'm done. So that's, once again, Dias Tayo, and then I'd visually flip that. So I've done the blindfold, and then D, which is DI, so this one I do a small U prime setup, kind of like advanced M2, except in doing the small U prime, I turn I into a N, which is a much better target for M2 in this rotation, so I'd solve it like that, and that, I'll make sure that I'm really pointing out, so DI, these two. And then AS, so AS, this is just standard M2, so I do M2, insert S with that. And then TAR, so TR, there's an interchange right here. So I do L2, insert to there. And then YO, so YO, I do this by bringing O to the top, inserting here, and then bring down the buffer, undo that, and then M2. And then this was a visual flip, so I'd solve that by just shooting to F and then J, because that's pretty standard. And now all my edges are solved except these 2 are swapped, which is what I want. So then back to my corner memo, tattoo, so TA, these 2. So this one I solve by doing an R, like a rotation and then an R. And then I can cancel into inserting this here with an interchange on the D2. So, looks like that. And then ultimate, so U, L. This one I do a D prime R setup. And what that does is that turns it into a rotationless 8 mover. So I can insert here then there. So D prime, insert. So that's ultimate. Then Ian, which is IA. And this is one where you can do like that insert, but what I like to do is keep it right-handed, so I do U prime insert, U prime undo U2, and then Bowser, so B to W. This one I have the interchange here, and what I do is I misorient W so that it's a sticker on like the side. So I do RD R prime, and then I can insert with that. So, and then undo at the end. And then finally H for hazy. And then this one I do like a standard old Popman target, which is why I leave these 2 swapped. Like that. Alright, scramble number 2. This one's pretty similar to the last one in the sense that it has parity and flipped pieces, only this time it's flipped corners, and it's what I like to call an outside of buffer flip. And what I mean by that is there's 2 corners outside of the buffer that are flipped, and they're flipped in such a way that my buffer is going to be solved at the end, so I can twist these with each other. So basically the way I memorize edge flips is like if there's a lone one at the end, it'll be flipped with the buffer, so I flip those 2. If there's 2 that I see visually, I'll usually just flip them from the get-go using a setup move and then solve my audio edges. Corners, I do something similar occasionally, especially for something like this. If I have like, say, a chameleon twist, like just something like this lying around the cube, I can use like my good or bad corner twist system, which is similar to Noah Arthur's, and I can do it at the end like I normally would, because the way I decide if a flipped corner is good or bad is whether or not I have to use the headlights algorithm or the chameleon algorithm. But for something like this, I don't have a distinction between this and a different case, so I would just solve this from the get-go to be safe. Anyways, memo, so I start on corners. IM, that would be imprisoned, and then I have to go to a new sticker because this is my buffer. I probably go to N, just because I see it first, because I'm at N. So IM, N, D, K. So maybe imprisoned Ned, like Ned Flanders, and K would be kazoo because ending with Z. So imprisoned Ned playing the kazoo, and then I just visualize these 2, and I know I'm going to solve them once I'm finished memoing edges. So imprisoned Ned playing kazoo, and I have parity, so I have to switch these 2. So E, K, F, this would normally go to M, but now it goes to R. So E, K, F, R, G normally goes to B, but now it's A. So EK, FR, GA, new cycle. Once again, since I'm back here, I see this is unsolved, so I go ND, TO, SN. So EKFAR, gay nod, toe, san. And then I don the blindfold and I solve these two corners like I remembered before I forget. And my algorithm for these two depends on my mood. I'd probably do like an OLL PLL type solution, which is on a solved cube. It's like that. So anyways, EK, so E to K, I have an M interchange, and this can insert to there with 3 moves. So, and then FR, this one, I do a small U prime setup. So now the cycle is here to here. Once again, I have an M prime interchange, so I do that and I insert. G to A, standard M2 solution, insert M2, undo M2. And then I have a new cycle. So I go ND for nod, which is an interchange here, and I can insert with U prime M to U. So bring this here, insert, do that. And then toe, which was TO. This one I do M2 first, and then I can insert this to there, and I have an M interchange. So I do that, undo, and then go back down to cancel out the M2. And then san, so SN, I have an interchange here on the E slice, but I'd rotate to make it an M slice so it's finger tricky. And I insert with UI U prime. Like that. Edges are done, these two are swapped. And then corner memo, which was imprisoned Ned playing the kazoo. So for IM, what I do is I do an R prime setup, and now M is at the B sticker, and this is on the side for a rotationless 9 mover. So it looks like this. And then Ned, so ND, this is a standard L prime interchange, insert with 3 moves. And then kazoo, so K, this is just an R setup to the standard Y perm that cancels. Like that. Scramble 3, this one, so corner buffer, A, immediately break to a new cycle, great. Anyways, so A, M, EO, I, in, M, and then a single corner twist here. And again, I mentioned how I always have a system for single corner twists, whether it's good or bad. This one, for me, is a good twist. Not necessarily because it's clockwise or counterclockwise, I just have them assigned for each thing. So anyways, going through that corner memo, AM, for me, is someone called Amy. EO is the verb explodes. And then IN, so just in, that's an easy filler word. And then M is maze, because you attach a Z. So Amy explodes in a maze, and then good twist. And I don't like incorporate the word good or bad into my memo, because I just don't, and I don't need to, because I find it works for me without it. But I know what Noah likes to do is he has like normal or weird twists, and he'll add like the word normal or weird at the end. So for him it could be something like Amy explodes in a maze normally, something like that. I've just never bothered to do it. Anyways, onto edges. Once again, got parity, so I had to slip these two. This therefore goes to B, break into a new cycle. So both corners and edges, you get one target in and then new cycle, which is kind of crap. B, A, F, S, that could be BAFS, that's an easy quad. So B, A, F, S, H, C, Y, O, Hatchio. For the letter C, I make it a CH sound so I don't confuse it with K. So C is always ch. So BAFS, hatch, what was it? Hatchyor, so HCYW, and then NVIM, novim. So BAFS, hatchyor, novim. And then don the blindfold, so BA, that's just standard M2, so set up B, like that. FS, I do a rotation, interchange here, and I can insert this to F, like that. Hatch, HC, this one I do an X prime, I do an arm move setup, and then I have one of the like these types of 5 movers with the it's basically this type of thing with the U move added, and then it cancels at the end. So for me, HC goes like this, and then yaw, so I do R2, and then similar to before, I do a 5 mover like that, then undo, and then nov, NV, interchange on the D layer, insert with U prime to U, L prime, undo, and then IM, so I do U setup, and then these two are on this like right face, meaning I can insert this to these really easily using the interchange. So U, insert to I, insert to M with a cancel. And then back to my corner memo, which was Amy explodes in a maze. So A to M. This is one of those cases I kind of just know algorithmically. It's like that, which if you want to break it down, so it solves this case. So you do an R setup to make the interchange here. U insert U2. You can also do U2, then this like COLL in U2, but I don't like that. So Amy explodes, so EO. This I do F prime, so I now have FO. And then I can do this insert, U2R prime, D2, repeat, undo. And then in, so IN. I just do D interchange, insert to the back. And then M for maze, R prime, Y perm R, and then the good corner twist, like that. Okay, fourth and final scramble, because with these 4 scrambles, my main goal was just to show how I deal with every type of scenario with blind. So I've covered parity, twisted corners inside the buffer, as well as edges, and then twisted corners outside of the buffer, which same thing applies to edges, obviously. Also talked about like my good and bad system for single corners, and I also have this system for when I have 2 corners outside of the buffer, but they go the same way, so it's like a soon at the end. I have the same system for that, and that's what I'm going to showcase with this last solve. So corner memo, C, A, K, G. So that for me is calling the king, and then I have what I call a bad soon twist, because it's lefty. As you can kind of see here, it's a lefty soon. So it's calling the king and then bad soon. And then edges, FV, WK, NM, IH, CR. So fav, whack, num. Wait, hang on. Oh, I remember that wrong. Whoops. Fav, whack, P hatch, raynum. So I thought this had to go here instead of here, which is a silly mistake I make. But anyways, so fav whack. So FV, I have this L interchange here with these two, and I can insert with UM to U prime, so I just insert to there, then there. Like that. Whack, WK. I do advanced M2, so I set up the B2, and then I solve K like normal, and I can cancel at the end. PI, so P. And you'll notice, like with the first example, I had DI is D. The reason I do that is because I assign I an E sound, and E is an E sound. And I have systems like that for everything else, so like ending with A is A, ending with H is A. It's just, I just did that early on so I could get rid of confusion, but I don't think it makes a big difference. If you don't want to bother doing it, then all the power to you. So PI, I have an interchange here, and I can insert with MDM prime, so I'll do U, then insert P to I, and then undo like that. Hatch, so HC, same case as before, so R, and then a 5 mover, and then RA, sorry, so Ray, M2, because A is my helper piece, and then NM. And then this is a weird one, so for NM, I do that, which is just kind of an algorithm. And it's good to know all the variations of that. So you've got like the top ones, so like MH and stuff like that, and then that's just a back one. So that does that, and then going to corner memo, which was calling the king. So CA for me is just an A perm, so I do U, A perm, U prime, king, so K to G. I do an R setup and G is now in the C spot, and I can do a easy 9 mover from here. So insert, and then undo all that. And then I remember have bad lefty soon, and I visually remember that these two are here, and I just solve it like that. And the thing with the system is like I don't have different types of, you know, names for good and bad twists depending on where they are. I just assign good or bad and then, you know, like single twist or soon. And I just kind of visually remember from memo where it was because 3 blind is very, very short term. So yeah, that about wraps that up. Now for some final thoughts. Okay, so there wasn't really too much structure to the video. I kind of just wanted to explain a few things since I've never really made any type of blind video aside from uploading solves. So I figure I might as well say something about it. So yeah, learning 3 style, not very fun. Don't expect it to be super fun, at least not the whole way through. At first I really liked it, but you know, as I went on it was kind of just like the end goal determination that got me there. So that's about that for learning cycles. As for other tips, learning a letter pair list is extremely helpful. I know Noah says you can just make stuff up on the fly, but I'm god awful at that. Like, I was really, really bad at it. Like, I just couldn't think of words for even easy letter pairs. So I definitely suggest learning a letter pair list because, especially in the long term, it makes a big difference, I think. Because even Noah at this point probably has a list, like a mental list, just from experience. And that's another thing, if you do learn a letter pair list, don't just write out every single letter pair in one day and then like not really look at it. Take it slowly. What I did was I'd get all my possible letter pairs starting with like A, and I would drill those. It's kind of like drilling 3 cycles. So I'd, you know, go one letter at a time, drill them, move on, drill, move on, then like after getting however far, I'd kind of just drill the whole thing. So stuff like that. And speaking of drills, a good way to practice getting used to 3 cycles easily, it's kind of like PLL time attacks. I call them sticker time attacks. So what that means is I'll go and do every 3 cycles starting with A, going alphabetically, and then time that and try and get it sub X, usually around sub 25 for corner cycles. So that's about it for learning stuff. Other advice, I think the only thing I haven't mentioned is, like, for practicing aside from just doing solves, one thing that helps me a lot is edges only solves, since I solve edges with audio. And the reason that helps a lot is because for me a 3 blind solve is basically memorize corners, do an edges only solve, solve corners. So if I don't feel like doing a full 3 blind session, I can do an edges only session where I try to push my memo, and that usually helps decrease my times and my average pretty quickly. So if you solve edges first, do lots of edges only practice. If you do corners first, well, if you do corners first, I would suggest switch to edges first, but also, if you don't want to do that, do lots of corners only practice, because the audio practice there pays off quite a bit. And I can't think of anything else I really want to say about 3 blind. Improving quickly is basically just getting your algs good, getting your like letter pair list, both like your mental list and, you know, whatever you're writing down and trying to learn good and sharp. And then having fast memo, which you practice just by pushing memo in normal solves and also doing like audio practice. Another good thing for pushing memo is try and not waste time trying to visualize your corner memo and just kind of let it be a sentence or whatever it is, and then just go straight to edges and see if you remember it. Because I think in the long run, sentence memo for 3 blind is a lot better than images because, you know, 3 blind's a very short-term event. You don't really need to put in that much effort once you're at a higher level. So once you feel like you're ready to gravitate towards sentence memo, do it, but when you're averaging like 2 or 3 minutes, it's not the most helpful advice. And yeah, that's pretty much outlining everything I did to get as good as I have in a short period of time. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.